The first truck loaded with medicine fueling Gaza began entry in the Gaza Strip at noon on Friday through the Rafah land crossing as part of a truce agreed with the Israeli state. In France, activists protest violence against women in Paris, calling on President Emmanuel Macron to support a bill that pushes to make consent central to the legal definition of rape and sexual assault. Indian teams trying to rescue the 41 workers who have been trapped inside a collapsed road tunnel for nearly 2 weeks entered the final stage of their attempts. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. Moving with the news, stay with us. The first truck loaded with medicine, fuel, and gas began to enter Gaza Strip at noon on Friday through the Rafah land crossing. This is part of the aid to be delivered at the beginning of the truce agreed with the Israeli state. According to the Egyptian Al Kahira TV News, a first convoy of 60 trucks crossed the border crossing on the first day of the truce. The director of the State Information Service, Dayar Rashan, who acts as a spokesperson for the Egyptian government, stated on Friday that 130,000 liters of fuel and 4 trucks of gas from Egypt will enter the Gaza Strip daily, as well as 200 trucks in humanitarian aid. Just hours after the implementation of the humanitarian ceasefire with Israel, the entry of trucks loaded with humanitarian aid began immediately. More trucks carrying in aid for the Palestinian people are expected to arrive throughout the day.
Following the truce with Israel in the early hours of the morning, the Rafah crossing was opened and the entry of trucks began. 230 trucks loaded with aid, water and medicines are expected to enter the Gaza Strip today. So far, approximately 90 trucks are already inside. 4 trucks loaded with cooking gas of approximately 84 tons, in addition to 3 trucks loaded with fuel of 150,000 liters of kerosene. These aids and trucks have already entered and were unloaded to take them out of the Rafah crossing, and we hope that they will continue to enter without interruption to reach a total of 230 trucks loaded with aids.
In this context, thousands of Gazans returned to their homes from the various places where they sought shelter from bombardment. A long caravans of vehicles is moving through the streets of Khan Yunis, one of the main cities in southern Gaza. They are the internally displaced people returning to their homes with the few belongings they were able to take with them in an attempt to return to some semblance of normality through the 4-day ceasefire that began this Friday. However, the Israeli warplanes flew over in southern Gaza, dropping leaflets warning people not to return to the north. For the first time in 48 days, the citizens of Gaza are once again walking around the streets without a constant fear of losing their lives under Israeli bombardment. Many people that the attempts of a humanitarian truce will be met. For more details, our correspondent Nur Harasan reports directly from Gaza.
For the first time in 48 days, Palestinians managed to go out of their homes and get to the markets of Gaza. For the first time in 48 days, they feel safe to go around and walk in the streets. But here is the thing. Those people who are inside southern Gaza, they can go out only inside southern Gaza. People in the north, they can go out of their homes only in the north of Gaza. So basically, we are talking about the Gaza Strip separated, northern Gaza and southern Gaza. Unfortunately, people from southern Gaza cannot move back to northern Gaza to check on their homes or maybe bring some of their belongings. But as you can see around me, this is one of the markets in southern Gaza. We are actually in Deir al-Balah market, and it is actually full of people comparing to the past weeks. Yesterday, you would not say that this is the same street because no one would be out in the streets. However, now Palestinians are optimistic and feeling safe, and they do think that this truce agreement will open the way to other ceasefires and other truce agreements. Nur Harazin, teleSUR, Gaza.
On Friday, part of the hostages taken by the Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement Hamas was held in Gaza, arrived in Cairo, capital of Egypt, as part of the truce agreement reached with the Israeli government. The released prisoners arrived in Egyptian territory through the Rafah crossing between Egypt and the Gaza Strip and were handed over to the International Committee of the Red Cross, according to the Times of Israel's newspaper. Meanwhile, Palestinian sources inform that the number of people killed by the indiscriminate bombardment of the Israeli army, as well as the assaults against refugee camps and civilian areas, reached on Friday 14,800, of which 6,100 are children and a similar number of women and non-belligerent civilians among the elderly. The agreement between the parties contemplates the release of 50 hostages held in the Gaza Strip in exchange for 150 Palestinian prisoners, with a ratio of 1 to 3 that has been maintained in the first exchange. On Friday, the accords on Israeli intervention on the south was held. Participants talk about the interference of Israel's military and espionage interventions in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. Pagamil Hulid Mojola, the spokesperson for National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, talk about the importance of supporting Palestine.
That the colonization that we're seeing in Palestine is very much the same as the colonization that we suffered under on the continent. And on that basis, we must hold hands with the people of Palestine and stand with them and fight with them in their persistent campaign for genuine freedom.
The president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, on Friday accused Israel of murdering journalists who have been responsible for telling the world about a tragedy in the Gaza Strip since October 7 last year. During the International Summit on Strategic Communications organized by the Turkish President, Erdogan said that Tel Aviv kills especially journalists who try to report on the humanitarian tragedy in Gaza despite all the difficulties. As a result of these attacks, he said more than 60 journalists have been killed since last October until today. Erdogan affirmed that a massacre is taking place in the Palestinian territory as civilians attacked by Israel at not only children and women, but now it is also murdering journalists working. European Parliament member Manu Pineda delivered a list of war crimes committed by Israel against Palestinians to the International Criminal Court prosecutors in The Hague on Thursday. On his X social network account, Pineda posted a photo of himself holding some papers in front of the court's headquarters in the Netherlands. He wrote that he was in a Hague at the International Criminal Court to deliver to the prosecutor's office a dossier of all the human rights violations on war crimes committed by the Israeli regime in Palestine and especially in Gaza. Pineda reiterated his determination to open a case that will bring Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In mid-November, more than 80 leaders from different countries called on the ICC to arrest and prosecute Netanyahu and his political leadership for war crimes against humanity and genocide against the Palestinian people. Let's take a very first break, but remember you can now join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. In France, activists protest violence against women in Paris on Friday, calling on President Emmanuel Macron to support a bill that will make consent central to the legal definition of rape or sexual assault. The demonstration took place on the 8th of the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. The proposed draft, which is under discussion in the European Parliament, has been opposed by some countries, including France. The European Commission proposed last year to harmonize the criminalization of rape across the bloc on the strict basis of lack of consent and to introduce a common set of penalties.
The law must represent the reality of a society. Today, when our consent is not respected, we feel violated. We know we were raped, but the law says no. I know better than you. We know we didn't want that sexual relations, so this change in the law will allow for much less impunity because it will allow for more prosecutions and more convictions, I hope.
United Nations report at least 2,480 migrants dead and missing in the Mediterranean. The United Nations Missing Migrants Project warned that a year 2023 records the highest rate of deaths and disappearances since 2018, when more than 2,300 victims were recorded. Since the start of the project in 2014, the deaths of more than 59,700 people have been recorded worldwide, with the central Mediterranean being the deadliest road with at least 22,400 victims. The deadliest year so far was 2016, with 8,078 deaths missing. In Canada on Friday, students at the three English-speaking universities in the province of Quebec expressed their concern over an announcement by local authorities to double tuition fees for the next academic year. The Quebec government has announced that it will raise tuition fees for non-residents from $6,500 to $17,000. Sebastien Level, Grenier, director of Bishops University, know that about 30% of his school's 2,650 students come from other provinces, while 15% are international.
It's more about just the language. So I think it sends a message overall that English speakers aren't welcome in the province, and if they want to study here, then they have to fork up $17,000.
They're French, but this is going to deter a lot of students from coming here, especially the ones that are already here. It's great, but for the ones that are coming here in the future, it's not going to make them want to come here anymore, you know?
The president of Uruguay announced on Thursday from Beijing that he will propose to the Mercosur countries a meeting with China at the next summit of the bloc at a time when Montevideo seeks to strengthen trade relations with the Asian giant. Uruguayan President Luis Lacalle Pou said in a press conference that Uruguay will propose a meeting between Mercosur and China at the next Mercosur summit on December the 7th in Rio de Janeiro under the Brazilian presidency. Following a meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and the Uruguayan president in Beijing on Wednesday, both countries agreed to upgrade their relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership. Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to join us on our WhatsApp community or for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on the screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. We'll find out your break, don't go away. Welcome back. Just a few meters of rocks and earth separate Indian rescue teams from 41 workers who have been trapped inside a collapsed road tunnel for nearly 2 weeks. After a series of rapid advantage hopes that immense freedom was meeting where the dashes late on Wednesday went to drilling machines powering 3 tons of rocks and concrete running into metal roads, but those have now been cleared. Rescue teams have stretched feet with wheels ready to pull the exhausted men through 57 meters of pine once it has been driven through the final section of a rubble blocking their escape. Officials have repeatedly predicted they were within a few hours of a breakthrough, but a government statement has also noted that any timeline is subject to change due to the technical glitch, the challenging Himalayan terrain, and unforeseen emergencies.
Let's all hope and pray, as we have been doing for the last so many days, that we are able to insert the first pipe. And with the second pipe, we're able to achieve the breakthrough, and that should be enough, and we are able to reach our people as soon as possible.
China offers France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Spain, and Malaysia the possibility of visa-free travel for 15 days. This was announced by the Foreign Minister Wang Yi at a meeting with French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna at Beijing University.
In order to facilitate people-to-people exchanges between China and France, China has decided to implement a visa waiver policy for French citizens coming to China for short stays of 15 days or less. Now that the terror of the epidemic is gone, we are delighted to see an increase in mutual visits, contacts and exchanges between our two peoples.
In Indonesia, a large number of Burmese Rohingya refugees have arrived over last week on the shore of each province in the west of the country. Authorities said the refugees arrived aboard several boats from Bangladesh and were quickly relocated to camps. Meanwhile, the arrival of the people have raised the mistrust of the local population, who have urged the authorities to send them back to the sea. The situation has been strongly criticized by the human rights organizations, which warn of a violation of refugee rights. In southern Kenya, the flooding of the Moni River in the district of Mukney left 15 people dead, while 8 others remain missing. The Red Cross reported that over 15,000 houses were affected and 97 hectares of crops suffered irreparable damage, along with the loss of more than 1,000 head of cattle. In this regard, the United Nations Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs stated that East Africa could experience heavy rainfall due to the El Niño phenomenon. We have come to the end of this news brief, but before saying goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscast and contribute to provide an alternative news sources of the latest world events. You can find these and many other stories on our website. We are at telesurenglish.net, and join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English, and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.